If you're still getting to grips with learning to drive, then there's a chance you're a little intimidated by gears. They're an integral part of the car and essentially help it move. Early on in your driving lessons, your instructor will explain the basic concept to you. Over time you'll learn that gears are nothing to be feared. In fact, they're incredibly simple. You don't even need to think too much about how they work once you get to grips with changing them at the right time. You'll always start in low gear before moving on to high gear. Soon, it'll become second nature. This video is part of our Basics series, aimed at new drivers who are trying to improve their knowledge and understanding of driving. We've already covered how to start a car, how to adjust your mirrors, and how to set up your seat and steering wheel. Now it's time to give you an introduction to the inner workings of your car, the gears. Would you consider yourself a car expert? Well, don't worry, you're not alone. Even car enthusiasts sometimes scratch their heads regarding automatic gear shifters' letters, numbers, and symbols. But don't fret. We're here to help. This blog post explains everything so you can shift gears like a pro. Let's get started. Smooth gear changing is the first of 3 key foundation skills you need to learn, the others being steering and clutch control. Gears can be changed up or down. This has nothing to do with the direction you move the gear lever, it simply means that you change to a higher gear, 4 or 5, or a lower gear, 1 or 2. The basic rule is that you change up through the gears as the speed of the car increases and down when you need more power from the engine. For example, you would change down to a lower gear when climbing a hill or pulling away at low speed. The gears determine the amount of power available from the engine. First gear provides the most pulling power but the least potential for speed, whilst fifth gear, which provides the least pulling power, allows the greatest range of speed. The following table indicates typical speed and revs for changing gears up or down. The basic gear changing rule is brakes to slow, gears to go. As the car increases speed, change up through the gears. When you want to slow down, use the foot brake. You need only change to a lower gear when you need the accelerator again to drive the car. Selective gear changing means you sometimes miss out gears, for example, by changing from 5th or 4th gear to 2nd gear. This method is called selective or block gear changing. There are also times when you might selectively change up, for example, if you have used a lower gear such as 3rd for better acceleration, you might be able to change to 5th gear when you have reached your intended cruising speed. The correct sequence for changing gear is as follows. Make sure that it is safe to change gear. Any place where it is necessary to use both hands to steer the car, such as a corner or bend, would not be suitable. Next, ease off the accelerator pedal just prior to depressing the clutch pedal. The two actions are almost simultaneous. Select the appropriate gear using your left hand while being careful to look ahead and not at the gear lever. Release the clutch pedal just prior to reapplying pressure to the accelerator pedal with your right foot. Again, the two actions are almost simultaneous. This will dramatically reduce the power being transmitted from the engine to the gearbox, enabling you to select a gear without causing any damage to the gear mechanism. In a car, the gears are numbered between 1 and 5, sometimes 6, plus reverse. These numbers allow you to dictate the amount of power you want to use from the engine. In a manual car, you'll generally have the following gears and states. Neutral, when your car is in no gear at all. 1. Low gear, used for starting your car and moving off. 2. 3. 4. 5. High gear. 6. Occasionally cars will have a 6th gear, but this is not a given. In reality, the numbers are just a representation of a piece of machinery. That machinery is a rotating circular component under the hood of your car. They are designed to transmit power from one shaft to another through rotation. That probably sounds a bit complicated, and we understand that. The good news is that to drive, you don't necessarily need to understand the full complexities of a gear. You just need to know how to use them, and how each one affects your car. You'll simply need to know how to change gear, when to change gear and which gear is the best for your current driving situation. If you do want to know the technical bit though, we're going to cover that for you. The language of this next section may get a little more complicated, but we'll try and keep it simple where we can. Gears in a car take the power from the crankshaft and transmit it to the drive shaft that powers the wheels. The crankshaft is the axle that takes power from the engine. Got that? Let's break it down a little. For the purposes of a car, gears are used to change speed. Whether it's to increase or decrease the speed through power. A gear on its own is generally just a cog. You need to make something happen. Generally, you'll have two cogs in a gear, but you can have multiple in some instances. One will be larger than the other with far more teeth. When the smaller one is turned, it has to be turned multiple times at speed, but then it makes the bigger gear turn. As that gear is bigger, the power is transmitted and it turns faster than the smaller ones, but with less force. When you change gears in a car, one of the cogs will change, and as such, it will change the amount of power that's being transferred. Changing gears is one of the fundamentals of driving a car. You'll always start in a low gear and, generally, move up towards a high gear like fifth gear. If you're only driving on small roads, you may not go any higher than third or fourth gear though. As changing gears is such an important part of driving, we're going to run you through it. Remember, every car is different, and your gear stick may have a slightly different layout, so make sure you look at it before you start your car. How to change gears in a manual car. You will generally change up gears in sequence, 1 through 5. But occasionally you may need to use selective changing, where you skip. More on that later. For the purpose of this example, we are going to assume you have already moved away and are driving. To change gear, you take your foot off the accelerator. Press down on the clutch pedal at the same time. Using your left hand, move the gear stick from one gear to another to change gear smoothly. Ease up on the clutch pedal slowly as you apply pressure to the accelerator pedal. As you'll be driving, you need to have memorized the order of the gear stick before you set off, as you should never take your eyes off the road. You can practice this with your car in park and the engine off. Changing gears in an automatic. The beauty of an automatic car is that the gears change themselves as you're driving. You may, however, still have a stick or series of buttons in the center of your car. These will be used for park, neutral and reverse. When you use these, you'll always be stationary and you'll simply be flicking between the two, without the need for a clutch. Most automatic transmissions have 4 or 5 forward gears and 1 reverse gear. The gears are usually labeled with the letters P, R, N, D, and L, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's what each gear represents. P, park. This position locks the transmission so the car cannot move. You should only use it when parking the vehicle or when the traffic lights hit red to prevent it from rolling away. R, reverse. Drivers use this car for backing up. N, neutral. This position disconnects the engine from the wheels. Drivers use it when starting the car or when shifting between gears. D, drive. This is the most common driving position. A driver shifts to the drive gear when moving the car forward. How to change transmission gears. Changing gears in an automatic vehicle is easy. The car will automatically shift gears as you accelerate. All you have to do is put the car into drive and use the gas pedal to go. If you want to shift gears manually, most cars have a plus and dash sign on the gear shifter. To upshift or move to a higher gear, you press the plus sign. For downshifting or shifting to a lower gear, press the dash sign. Which gears to use in different situations. The automatic transmission has several different gear ratios or speeds that it can use to power the car. The transmission will automatically shift between these gears based on your speed and how much power you are asking from the engine. First gear, this is the lowest gear ratio used when the car stops or moves very slowly. Second gear, the second and third gear helps ramp up the momentum and generate more power from the engine to drive speed. Fourth gear, This gear ratio is used when the car is moving at its fastest and needs the most power from the engine. Fifth gear, this gear ratio is sometimes used in automatic transmissions. It is similar to fourth gear but with a taller gear ratio that helps the car conserve fuel when cruising at high speeds on the highway. How to take care of automatic transmission systems. Automatic transmission needs regular maintenance to keep it running smoothly. You should check the fluid level every 30,000 miles and change it every 60,000 miles. It's also a good idea to flush the transmission system and service it every 30,000 miles. This helps remove dirt and grime, damaging the transmission over time. If you notice any strange noises or smells coming from your car, take it to a mechanic as soon as possible. Automatic transmissions are very delicate and need complete attention. When should you change gears? Now you know how to change gears, you just need to know when. A lower gear is great for starting off and accelerating, but realistically you'll need more power as you pick up speed. Changing gear is essential. When to go up a gear? While there's a general rule of thumb with the speed you should change from a lower gear, it can vary from car to car based on the power of the engine. First gear is used for starting your car and pulling away. Generally, you'll not use it to drive and should move to second gear almost straight away. Although there are a few instances where you may need to move that slowly. Fifth gear is reserved for high speeds. You should always listen to your car. If you're revving your car and it's making high-pitched noises, you'll probably need to go up a gear. When to go down a gear? You'll need to go down a gear as your speed drops. As you brake, you'll need to change down the gears to continue driving once you have slowed down. Generally, you'll drop down in blocks. Say if you're on the motorway and come across a queue, you'll drop directly from fifth to a lower gear, like the third or second depending on the situation. In some instances, you may just naturally slow without the brakes and you'll need to drop gears then too. Hills are another situation where you may want to use lower gears. As lower gears offer more power and less speed, they can help your car climb a steep hill easier. A higher gear will often leave your car struggling and you'll need to drop down. Judge by the revs of your car. Let us keep learning new skills.